a head of engineering in, say, a conflict with a head of sales and a head of product are misaligned on what the product vision is. And so they all have sort of differing understandings for what everyone's trying to achieve and are sort of conflicted about what the future roadmap should be. So I think a lot of them are talking a little bit more about the product execution and probably less about the actual product vision. And that might be where the tension is. What would you recommend like a head of engineering do in that moment where there's maybe broader executive misalignment around product vision? Is there a certain practice that you might introduce or a conversation you might recommend they have out in the open together?
One of the key things is that I think is really important is if you're in that type of situation as a leader, that you need to step back, and when you're looking at the roadmap, are you looking at a set of features you're anticipating to deliver, or are you more outcomes focused? And are you looking at, do we have alignment on the problems that we need to solve, and is the in what order do we need to solve those? And so that's usually just a great starting point. Some organizations are very feature focused on how they build out their roadmaps. There's a whole camp that is very outcomes focused. But I think what's really important is when you don't have answers to things and you're in conflict, features are very subjective from the standpoint of where value is created for many, unless it's been clearly researched, customer based, that drives that value creation. So when you're in conflict, recognize the conflict and then start systematically orienting with your peers in that situation. Well, let's look at this then at a level playing field. So if we look at it from a problem statement perspective, or here's the problems that we need to solve in this order to create value, regardless of feature set, that's something, for example, the head of sales and marketing can get behind, because what are they doing? They're trying to solve a problem for the end customer, and they can get behind on that. If you're the head of engineering on the product side, why are you developing that product? Well, to solve that problem, to create that value for the customer. If they're true, will then align with the company's strategic objectives. And so that starts to create a foundation to resolve that misalignment or conflict that's happening that is really important. I think another facet to that that's really important is to also look at how is leadership organize the incentives of those functions of the business, and are they in alignment or misalignment to actually deliver the outcome that's being asked of them. So if, for example, your organization incentive is built on velocity versus value creation, then that might be at odds with the objectives. So you're slowing down the organization to solve the problem, but that is misaligned with how your performance is being evaluated as a leader in the organization and driving your engineering teams. And so recognizing that there may be misalignment in the actual incentive structure of how the organization has developed, or organically or by intent, is also, I think, a really important piece of context, because it sets the environment in which you're trying to solve that problem. And so many times cross-functionally, leaders are not aware of how their peers' performance is being measured, or the pressure that resolves in. And there's a whole list of things that can follow. But at the very onset, I think you have to recognize those two things.